Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? All right.
Hello.
Hi, Catherine. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How about
Good.
you?
I'm doing pretty well. Yeah, we'll wait a couple minutes here and just make sure that a couple other people aren't going to jump in. Oh, I see Sam joined us. Hi, Sam. Why is that? Why can't you be trusted with autonomy? Okay, it's 7 o'clock, so I'm going to assume that everyone who is here is here. Um, I'm just going to go ahead and go straight to screen share and quickly work through the information that I have. So the reason why I called this chat session tonight is, or for this week, is really to remind you and get everybody set and ready for the next speech assignment, which is coming due faster than all of us probably are aware of. And so the best and easiest way to do that, I believe, is to just do it with the chat session. So I see there's a couple more people maybe that might jump in here. Possibly Corey, maybe. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and go to screen share. Okay, there we go. So hopefully you can see the PowerPoint. Is that correct? Can you see that? Okay, great. All right, so before I talk about the speech assignment, let me just briefly mention that the best place to see where your ongoing grade is in this total column on Canvas. And I actually moved it to the front of the grade book. So after your student name and ID, you should be able to see this total column. That obviously changes all the time as I continue to grade and add scores into the grade book, but it is kind of a good place to look just to see where you are at that point. So just by way of reminder, this course just uses a simple accumulation of points. I don't do any kind of weird weighting or, there's no fancy math, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So, pay attention to how many points each assignment has, and you'll know, I guess you'll know kind of what the weight would be on that. So for this next speech assignment, it's actually worth 200 points. But as I go through what it all involves or what it all entails, you'll see that there are a lot of parts to this speech assignment, so it makes sense that it's worth more points. That being said, I had to stop and respond to a family emergency last week, and so I still am behind a little bit on your grading, but I'm working to get caught up, and so I'll keep working at that, and we'll get current here as soon as I can. All right. So let's talk about the third speech. This is a policy analysis speech, and it's a speech that is researched. So you should be doing research for this speech, and you'll see that the discussion board for last week, and then part of the discussion board this week, asks you to think about the policy speech. And last week you were analyzing, student speeches, their outlines, their stock issues model worksheet, and so forth. And that was really in preparation for you to think about your topic and how you're going to analyze it. And also to kind of help you interact with the directions and help you to see what is actually being asked of you. And of course, with the student samples, you are looking to see whether they actually met those direction requirements or not. The other thing I want to mention is that because there are so many different pieces or parts to this assignment, you do want to pay careful attention to where those artifacts, that's what I call them, where those artifacts should be uploaded. And so there's several artifacts that need to be uploaded to Canvas that are associated with this assignment, and then there's the regular typical artifacts that we do on Launchpad. Okay, so just at a high view, the policy analysis speech is an informational analysis speech. It presents both sides of an argument, and your goal is to expose the underlying assumptions on each side, but you're to do this in an objective or neutral stance. So we don't want to hear your position on this particular policy topic yet, not in this speech. You'll get to tell us your position in the persuasive speech, but in this speech, you're to remain neutral. It is research-based, and you do have to create a bibliography, and I ask that you have 10 sources, 5 for the pro side and 5 for the con. Now you can have more than 10, but you have to have at least 10 if you don't have 10. And if they're not evenly distributed, then you won't be able to earn all of the points associated with that part of the assignment. You have to create visuals again, but you're giving this speech in front of an audience. You have to have an audience of at least 5 people, and one of those people obviously can be your speech partner who is filming you. So that's one of the 5. So then that just means you have to find 4 other people to listen to your speech. Now, I'm really okay with the fact that if all of you in the class here, somehow magically could make schedules work, and, you could all get together on a night and just sit and listen to each other's speeches, that would be great. In fact, that would be awesome. But I realize that, schedules are very individualized, and that may not, you may not be able to do that. So what I'm going to tell you is that put together your audience. Your audience can be made up of, any number of adults. I'm not really interested in having children listen. I'd rather have adults listen and give you verbal feedback on your speech after you're done. So any 5 adults, one of which, of course, would be your speech partner who is filming. The speech is only 7 to 8 minutes. Now, sometimes that sounds like a lot. I've got to get up and talk for that long. But when you think about a complicated policy topic, 7 to 8 minutes is really not very much time, and especially if you're going to present both sides. So what does that mean for you? That means that you need to be very, very organized, that your outline needs to be concise and clear, and you need to practice. You need to have practiced a number of times delivering this speech so that, number one, it falls inside of the time limit, and then number 2, you're fluid in the sense of your delivery so that you're not wasting valuable time trying to think of what to say, or reading through complicated quotations, or whatever it might be. So you want to streamline, make sure that you get everything that you need to say, but probably won't be able to say everything that you want to say. So you'll have to think through that, how you're going to distill down the information and share it with us. I've included both the different rubrics from both the Canvas artifacts and the Launchpad. So you can see in Canvas, you're going to be uploading a sentence outline. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to write a manuscript, but what it does mean is that every major and minor point should be written in sentence form, not in topic form. So it should be a full sentence. And the reason why I have you do this is particularly so that the transitional sentences between the major sections are full sentences and actually do the job that they're intended to do, which is to connect different sections or different ideas together. You have to produce an annotated bibliography. I'll show you an example of what that looks like here in just a minute, but the annotation does not have to be terribly long, just a sentence or two that explains what that source is, whether it's for the pro or the con side of the policy topic, and then maybe another little explanatory mention of how that source is useful, or what the author, maybe the main idea that the author purports in that particular article. You do have to create visual aids, so using Slideware, and just like last time, make sure that the visuals illustrate, that they're not text heavy, they should be visual heavy. You do have to figure out a way to project that. And I problem solve that how you can, all right? So if you're able to, I use this term loosely, but if you're able to rent out one of the classrooms that has a projector and a screen in there, maybe it's later at night and no one's using it, and the facilities people will allow you to do that, that's fine. A lot of the TVs now, are big, they're huge, and they are smart because, your laptops can either connect with an HDMI cable or some, like Apple, can connect wirelessly. So, if you're able to project onto a screen like that, that's fine as well. So, just problem solve that, figure out a way to project your visuals so that your audience can see them. Okay, then you do have to turn in what's called the Stock Issues Model Worksheet, and I put that on Canvas, and I actually, instead of just embedding it inside of the weekly assignment page, I actually did lift it up out of there and set it in our week 10, so you'll see it right on the top there. There's just a separate link to it, and you can just download it. It's a Word document that you download and you fill out. It's a graphic organizer, so it helps you to think through how to get at the underlying assumptions or the enthymemes of your particular topic. And we'll look at that in depth in a minute. But you do have to turn this worksheet in, and it should be filled out. So don't just turn in a blank worksheet. That's not helpful. But actually turn in your filled out worksheet. Think of it like this. Back in high school sometimes, maybe in algebra or geometry or one of your math classes, your teacher told you, half the credit you're going to earn on these problems is to show your work. Okay, this is my way of asking you to show your work. I want to see your thinking process. I want to see how you broke down the topic and how you were analyzing it on this worksheet, okay? And then finally, and this is what's a little bit different than prior times, your speech reflection is actually going to be written in Canvas. Canvas has a far better online editing tool, so you can actually just write it, not in the comment box, but actually in the middle there's a text editor, and you can actually just write it there just like if you were writing in Word. And you can do different kinds of formatting. You can bold and italicize and change the font color and style and whatever. So I'm going to have you do it in Canvas because this time the reflection is more substantial. And again, I'll show you what that looks like here in a minute, but I actually ask specific questions that I want you to answer in regards to this speech, the speech-making process and the delivery of your speech. And so you can see that the point total is even higher for this reflection. So it's 30 points. Your worksheet here is 20. Your slides are worth 10. Your bib is worth 20. And your outline is worth 20. So any one of these missing, and that takes, kind of a little bite out of your total number of points that are available. Then on the Launchpad side, the only thing you're going to be doing in Launchpad this time is to upload your video link. And we do have to do the embedding. So don't try to upload an entire video file. And here's why. I've learned this in the past, that when we do longer speeches like 5, 7, 8, 10 minutes, those speech files are too large and Launchpad can't handle it. So you do have to do that extra step. Upload it first to YouTube, grab the URL, then copy and paste the URL and embed it into Launchpad, and then it should work fine as long as you have put your settings in YouTube to unlisted. Do not put them as private because none of us will be able to watch it. If it's unlisted, it's not searchable, no one will find you, and obviously once the class is over, you're more than welcome to delete your speeches and even delete your account if you want to. Okay. Another thing I need to bring to your attention is the due dates have changed, and that's because of fall break. So I would like all of your artifacts due before you leave. So it's actually, you have a week and a half. November 1st is quickly approaching, and that is a week from Wednesday. So before you leave on break, you should upload your worksheet, your outline, your bibliography, your slides, and your reflection of your speech, which means then that you've given your speech to your audience and it's been filmed and you have uploaded that video or embedded it in Launchpad. And again, this all needs to happen before you leave on break. Now my thought was that many of you will actually leave campus. You won't stay there for, what is it? You get almost 6 days, don't you? You have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So I'm assuming you're going somewhere. And if that is the case, then this stuff all needs to come in before you leave. If for some reason, though, you are going to actually stay on campus and you honestly believe you need the extra time and you would prefer to turn it in on Friday like normal, then what you need to do is email me ahead of time and make arrangements, okay? Otherwise, I'm assuming that you will and need to get this done by Wednesday. The other thing, too, would be that peer reviews will be due the Wednesday that you come back. So they're due right after you come back from fall break. Because you have so many breaks in such a short time, it really has pushed us as far as due dates are concerned. So also keep that in mind and put that on your calendar so that you don't miss it. Okay, quick rundown of the artifacts that are going to be on Canvas. So I provided for you an outline model of how the policy analysis speech should go together. You can see that in the introduction, there are several moves. There's an intention getter. You have to give the relevance or the background of your topic. Typically, you establish your credibility as a speaker, which would include your interest in the topic. Why are you interested in this? Your thesis statement, which your thesis statement is the central overall controlling idea or statement. That is not the same thing as the preview statement. The preview statement is more of what you might think of in a 5-paragraph theme or essay where, in the following essay, I will discuss rabbits, dogs, and cats as pets for children. You can see that in that preview statement there, I'm telling you the order in which I'm going to address each one of those elements. And that's exactly what a preview statement does. It functions as a transitional sentence into the body of the speech, but it also works as an organizational strategy. So it tells the listener, this is what I'm going to talk about, and here's the order. Then in the body of the speech itself, you really would just lift the work that you did from the SIM worksheet, just lift that up out of there and organize it here in the body. So the SIM worksheet talks about uncovering what the problem is, the causes, the cure, and then the cost. Well, that's what goes in the body of your speech here. And of course, you would address both the pro and the con aspects of that. So, the pro side of your topic says, this is the problem. The con side says, this is the problem. And then you'd move to causes, pro, con, cure, what's their solution? What do they say is the solution, pro, con? And then how much is that going to cost? as we know, we don't live in a perfect world, so there may be a perfect solution out there, but it's not, it's unactable, right? It cannot be enacted because the cost is beyond what we are willing to pay. And costs could be more than just monetary. Costs could be human costs as well. So these are important things to consider when you're discussing both sides of the issue. And of course, the real aim of this is to figure out what really are those bedrock assumptions that underlie each of the different positions on the issue. Because when you figure out what the assumptions are, that's where you can figure out what the true solution or cure would be, as well as what the cost might be. Of course, once you've finished working through all of that, then you would transition and signal that you're going to conclude. And when you do conclude, conclusions are pretty standard. You're going to restate your thesis and summarize your main points. That's a standard way to begin your conclusion. But then for this particular speech, while you should have some sort of interesting, memorable close and end definitively, don't just trail off. You're not going to really have a call to action in the sense of a persuasive speech does. A persuasive speech calls the audience to do something or change their thinking. This is not that, because you're just informing the audience, hey, there's this policy issue, and these people think this, and these other people think that. And so when you come down to the conclusion, then while you may have a thought-provoking ending, really what you would do is try to incite them to learn more about it so that they can make an informed decision for themselves. But you're not going to reveal your position on the topic at this point. You're going to hold that back or save that for the persuasive speech. Like I mentioned earlier, you need to put together an annotated bibliography. I recommend this citation machine generator if you've never used it before. It's really nice, and what I like about it is that it will format in Turabian or Chicago. It's a similar, Chicago and Turabian are basically the same style. And so you could choose that tab to do your formatting. And just like I told you, you want one or two sentences underneath the bibliographic entry. You'll have one or two sentences that are your annotation or your description about that source. Notice the formatting. Notice that bibliographic entries use what's called a hanging indent, which means that the first line is always left justified, and any subsequent line is indented underneath that. That's a visual reminder to the reader as to when a new entry begins. Conversely, the annotation itself starts with, just like normal paragraph writing, starts with an indented line, and then any subsequent lines are left justified. So you can see the example there. Okay, just like last time, you're going to be using Slideware, and it's your choice what type you want or what you would like to use. But you do want to think about having slides that have high contrast, that they are visual heavy, not text heavy. We should not see your slide or your speech outline on your slides. We don't want to see that. You should mark where your slides are going to appear in your sentence outline. I forgot to point that out in that, but you can see where I did this here. You really should mark that, because when you get to speaking, sometimes it's easy to forget when to advance to the next slide. But if you have that cue there on your sentence outline, it makes it very nice, so you know when to click and go to the next slide. Like I said earlier, you have to figure out how to project your slides to your audience, so problem solve that. It's helpful to me, and I always give you a file naming convention for anything that I want you to save and upload for me. This is helpful, especially in the event that I want to download all of the submissions at once and then organize them by student. It's very helpful if you do the file naming convention. So thank you in advance. You do have to upload your PowerPoint or your Keynote file to Canvas, or if you're using Prezi or Google Slides, then copy and paste the, I said in the comment box, but you can actually copy or paste it into the text editor there on Canvas. Okay, here's the stock issues worksheet that I was mentioning earlier. So here you can see, here's the elements that correspond to the body of the speech. So the problem, cause, cure, and cost. And again, You're trying to uncover the heart of the controversy or the heart of the issue, which, of course, Aristotle calls enthymemes, those assumptions, bedrock assumptions that we make when we construct arguments for an audience. Again, here's a file naming convention for you to use, and you're going to upload this again to Canvas. All right, here's the speech reflection. Remember I told you this one was more in depth than the prior reflections. There's not enough space on Launchpad to write all of this in that little comment spot where you have been commenting on your speech, so that's why we're moving it to Canvas. So comment on how well you were able to incorporate course content. Notice I say list at least 5 different elements that you've tried to incorporate into your speech delivery, and you can gather that from, across all the readings and lecture information that we've had. I ask if you address the enthymemes or hidden assumptions in the arguments on both sides. Sometimes people forget to do both sides. They like to uncover the side that they disagree with to try to prove them wrong, but then they forget the other one. So make sure that you have both sides. Remember, it's going to be a neutral, objective, informational kind of speech. What is your assessment of your delivery? And if you had a second opportunity to give this speech again, what would you do differently? And then based on what you learned from this experience, what are your goals for your final or persuasive speech? Okay. Then Launchpad artifacts. So it's just your video embedding of your video, and then your peer review. And I actually changed the settings on Launchpad, so I'm hoping that it won't give us so much trouble with trying to submit, because this person or that person hasn't put their video up yet and you haven't been able to comment on it and all that. We've had a little trouble back and forth with that in some instances. So I've changed the settings, so hopefully this will help. Remember that you do have to do the extra step, upload to YouTube first, then grab that URL or embed code and paste that into Launchpad. Remember that you need to set your file in YouTube to unlisted, not private. And then you'll be commenting on your peers in your peer group. Okay, that pretty much does it for what I have. So I'm going to go back to not sharing the screen, and and then I'll see if you have questions, okay? So give me just a second. I'll get off this screen share here. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. All right, so I can see that we've got some questions going on. That's correct. This speech is not meant to move anyone to action. Right now, this speech is just an analysis, merely informational. And yes, as long as the news articles, editorials are from reputable sources, yes, you can use those as part of your source material. Good questions, by the way. All right. Anyone else? Questions for, go to the order. Let me ask this quickly too. We only have just a few minutes left before Zoom times us out. Any questions about prior assignments in the course or anything else that we've been doing? So once we get done with this speech, you have really done the legwork for your persuasive speech, because you'll take the same topic and turn it into a persuasive speech and argue for one of the positions. So the more work you do now, the easier the persuasive will be. Okay. I have to manually update that, Chris. And I haven't done that yet. So that's on my to-do list. So I will look at that and get that done. I'll try to get that done tomorrow. So yeah, Launchpad, when it communicates with Canvas, sometimes I wish it wouldn't. Yeah, yours also has that as well, Catherine. So, and just ignore it. It has been brought in from Launchpad, and I haven't graded those yet. So, they're so it's not correct. I guess that's what I'm going to say. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Well, I will let you go, and I hope you have a good evening. And I look forward to not only listening to your presentations, which you just turned in, but looking forward to your policy speeches as well.